history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. I'm Stephen Lee. Today, Books That Free the Mind, a podcast. Introduction to The Mind is a Fortress of Freedom. This is where we explore the fringes, the ideas that whisper rebellion in the face of conformity, the path less traveled that lead to genuine liberation. And today, we're talking about the ultimate tool for that journey, the book. Not just any book, mind you, but the ones that crack open the cage, the ones that remind you that your mind is your most valuable and impregnable fortress. In a world that often shouts loudest to be heard, true freedom, the kind that resonates deep in your bones, begins upstairs. It's a product of independent thought, conscious defiance of the expected narrative. This podcast is built on that very principle, a libertarian, countercultural streak, viewed through the lens of an enduring American spirit that values self-reliance and individual liberty. We'll be delving into literature that challenges, that questions, that empowers. Think of it as intellectual ammunition, gathered from the dusty shells of history and the defiant voices of today. And speaking of defiant voices, music rooted in American folk tradition echoes a similar ethos of raw authenticity, a raw heart, an unwavering commitment to truth, liberty, and the unvarnished human experience. I sing for the misfits, the patriots, and the poets, for all of us who believe songs and ideas ought to mean something. In our quest for intellectual freedom, we often find the most potent catalyst for change not in the well-trodden paths of popular opinion or the sanctioned texts of academia, but in the quiet corners, the underground presses, and the voices that dare to speak truth to power. These are the books that, intentionally or not, plant seeds of dissent, challenging the prevailing narratives that shape our world, and in doing so, offering us a pathway to seeing beyond the confines of the given. Throughout history, certain works have served as powerful countercultural forces, igniting critical thinking and awakening individual consciousness. These books always aren't end up on the school syllabus, but they are often ones that resonate most deeply with those seeking a different perspective. They are the whispered secrets, the forbidden knowledge, the heresies that, in time, become the orthodoxies of a new era, the power of the unsanctioned. Consider for a moment the impact of works that deliberately buck the system. In the American tradition, this often means questioning authority, whether it's governmental overreach, societal conformity, or the dormant cultural discourse. Think of the early libertarian thinkers whose pamphlets and treatises circulated outside the established order, sowing the seeds of revolution not just politically, but intellectually. These were texts that encouraged individuals to think for themselves, to examine the foundations of their beliefs, and to resist intellectual coercion. Many of these seminal works emerged from a spirit of radical individualism and a profound skepticism towards centralized power. They often spoke directly to the individual's conscience, urging a personal responsibility to question, to analyze, and to dissent when necessary. This countercultural impulse is not about blind rebellion, but about a deliberate, informed refusal to accept dogma without scrutiny. Catalyst for awakening. When we talk about books that free the mind, we're often referring to those that offer a new lens through which to view the world, challenging assumptions we may not even realize we hold. These books can shatter illusions, expose hypocrisy, and illuminate hidden truths. They act as intellectual keys, unlocking doors to understanding that were previously sealed shut by convention or propaganda. Authors who embody this spirit often find themselves on the margins, their voices initially dismissed or suppressed, yet, like their ideas, their persistent weeds, almost, find cracks in the pavement and begin to grow, eventually influencing the landscape in profound ways. The very act of seeking out these books is an act of rebellion, a declaration that that one is not content with the prescribed intellectual diet. These challenging narratives, these seeds of dissent, are vital. They are the reminders that the world is far more complex and nuanced than the dominant story often allows. By engaging with them, we arm ourselves with the critical thinking skills necessary to navigate a world awash in information. We strengthen our own internal compass, guiding us towards a more authentic and liberated existence. American thinkers, voices of liberty and self reliance. When we talk about books that truly liberate the mind, we'd be remiss not to turn our gaze towards the fertile ground of American intellectual history. This continent, forged in revolution and a relentless pursuit of individual liberty, has produced thinkers whose words continue to serve as potent fuel for the free-thinking spirit. The American spirit itself is in many ways a testament to the power of ideas, ideas that champion the individual, question authority, and liberated existence, celebrate self-reliance. From the very inception of this nation, the foundational text emerged that articulated a vision of freedom distinct from the monarchies that established orders in Europe. These weren't just political manifestos, they were profound explorations of human nature, natural rights, and the proper role of government, or perhaps more accurately, the limited role of government ought to play. These are books that provided the intellectual architecture for society built on the consent of the governed, not the dictate of the sovereign. Foundational pillars of American liberty. Thomas Paine, an Englishman who became an ardent American revolutionary, stands as a towering figure. His pamphlet, Common Sense, published anonymously in 1776, was a seismic event. It wasn't written in a dense academic prose. It was clear, impassioned call to arms, directly addressing the common person and dismantling the mystique of monarchy. Paine argued with searing logic and emotional power that the time for reconciliation was over, and that independence was not just desirable but a natural right. Reading Paine is like striking a match in a dark room. His words illuminate the path towards self-governance and individual autonomy. Then there's the enduring legacy of Henry David Thoreau. His masterpiece, Walden, is more than just a chronicle of his 2 years living by Walden Pond. It's a profound meditation on simplicity, self-sufficiency, and the importance of living deliberately. I went through a good year or two where I just read Walden by Thoreau like religiously every day almost, and just like lived by myself, well with my folks on our farm out here in York, and just like embraced a simple life. And it was game changing for me. Thoreau famously advised, simplify, simplify. He urged readers to shed the unnecessary burdens of society and materialism to discover their true selves. His essay, Civil Disobedience, is equally critical, advocating for the individual's moral right to resist unjust laws. Thoreau's work is a potent antidote to the pressures of conformity, a reminder that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in the freedom of one's own mind and spirit. Further down the line, we encounter thinkers who continue to refine and champion these ideals. While not perhaps a direct political philosopher in the same vein, figures like Mark Twain, through his sharp wit and satirical portrayals of societal foibles and hypocrisy in works like Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, implicitly celebrated the individual's journey against the grain of societal expectations and prejudices. Huck's moral awakening, often in defiance of what quote unquote civilized society dictated, is a powerful narrative of personal liberty and conscience. Contemporary resonance in the spirit of dissent. These foundational ideas haven't faded into historical obscurity. They continue to inspire and inform contemporary voices within the libertarian and countercultural movements. Authors and thinkers who champion individual liberty, free markets, and a skeptical view of state power carry forward this American tradition. They might write about economic freedom, personal responsibility, or the philosophical underpinnings of liberty in the 21st century. The spirit of these American thinkers, the willingness to question to dissent, to advocate for individual freedom, finds a modern echo in some music today. The stuff I try to do, deeply rooted in American folk tradition, is also imbued with a spirit of raw truth, resilience, and a commitment to individual liberty. My last record, Truth is Power, directly engages with themes of liberty and the American spirit, stripped down to their essential core. This resonates with the very essence of what we're discussing books and, by extension, songs and ideas that empower the individual and challenge the status quo. My commitment to authenticity and focus on core values align perfectly with the intellectual lineage we're exploring. Exploring these American voices is crucial. They provide just not historical context, but living examples of how to engage with the world as an independent thinker. These works are tools, much like the durable instruments we use to capture and refine our thoughts, that help us build our own intellectual fortresses. They remind us that the pursuit of liberty is an ongoing conversation, a continuous act of questioning and self reliance, deeply woven into the fabric of the American narrative. The power of story, fictional worlds that expand reality. We've touched on nonfiction, on the direct appeals to reason and liberty from philosophers and revolutionaries, but today we're diving into a different kind of liberation, the kind found within the imaginative landscapes of fiction. Because, let's be honest, sometimes the most profound shifts in perspective, the most potent awakenings of the mind, come not from dry treatises, but from stories that transport us, that challenge us, that show us worlds entirely different from our own. Fiction at its best is a gateway. It allows us to inhabit others' lives, to wrestle with dilemmas we might never face in our own reality, and to consider the possibilities that shadow the mundane. It's a powerful tool for empathy, certainly, also for intellectual exploration. Through narrative, complex ethical quandaries can be explored with a nuance that pure logic sometimes struggles to capture. A well-crafted story can illuminate the human condition, expose societal hypocrisies, and crucially for our purposes, offer visions of alternative ways of living and organizing ourselves, visions that can spark real-world change in our own thinking. Think about it. A dystopian novel could serve as a chilling warning, a stark illustration of what happens when certain freedoms are eroded. By immersing ourselves in these imagined futures, we gain a visceral understanding of the value of these liberties we might otherwise take for granted. Conversely, a utopian, or even simply a more individualistic society depicted in fiction can offer a blueprint, a source of inspiration for what could be. These aren't just escapist fantasies, they are thought experiments, living laboratories of ideas. Consider the impact of science fiction, a genre particularly adept at this kind of world building. Authors like Robert Heinlein, whose works often explore libertarian themes with a keen eye for societal structures and the individual agency, presented readers with futures where personal responsibility and freedom were paramount. His novel "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress", for example, is a master class in depicting a lunar colony's struggle for independence, showcasing the practicalities and philosophies of self-governance in a bold, often controversial way. It's a story that doesn't just tell you about libertarian ideals, it shows them in action with all the grit and ingenuity that entails. Similarly, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, though a polarizing work, undeniably functions as a powerful narrative exploration of individualism, capitalism, and the consequences of collectivism. Regardless of one's agreement with her philosophy, the sheer scope of her imagined world and the dramatic unfolding of her character's struggles against a stifling society undeniably liberate the mind from conventional thinking, forcing readers to confront fundamental questions about purpose, creation, and societal obligation. Ethical dilemmas and the countercultural spark. Fiction also excels at presenting us with intricate ethical dilemmas, forcing us to weigh competing values and consider the consequences of our choices. Short stories, in particular, can pack immense intellectual and emotional punch in a compact form. Jorge Luis Borges, an Argentinian master philosophical tale, created labyrinths of thought that challenged the very nature of reality, knowledge, and identity. His stories often feature characters grappling with seemingly impossible choices or encountering worlds governed by logic alien to our own, thereby expanding our conceptual boundaries. These narratives, especially those with a countercultural bent, often highlight the individual struggle against the entrenched power structures or prevailing social norms. They celebrate the rebel, the outcast, the thinker who dares to see the world differently. This resonates deeply with the spirit of authenticity and defiance. that we often find in folk music. The act of engaging with these fictional works, of wrestling with their ideas and characters, is itself an act of mental liberation. It's an exercise in flexing the muscles of critical thinking, empathy, and imagination. These stories remind us that the status quo is not immutable, that alternative perspectives are not only possible, but often necessary for a vibrant and free society. They are invitations to question, to explore, and ultimately to define our own reality, armed with the expanded understanding that only a good story can provide. Rediscovering Lost Wisdom, the unsung heroes of free thought. Welcome back to Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. We've journeyed through the established titans of American literary liberty and the imaginative realms of fiction that challenge our perceptions. But the landscape of liberated thought is vast, and too often the most potent ideas lie in wait, unearthing by the mainstream residing in the quiet corners of literary history. Today we're venturing off the beaten path to shine a light on some of these unsung heroes, books and authors whose insight into freedom, human nature, and societal organization are as profound as they are overlooked. In our pursuit of intellectual emancipation, there's an undeniable thrill in discovering a voice that, though perhaps not widely celebrated, speaks with a clarity and power that resonates with our own burgeoning convictions. These are the texts that act as a secret handshake for any independent thinker, the ones that confirm we're not alone in questioning the status quo. They often emerge from periods of intense social or political upheaval, from individuals who, by circumstance or design, found themselves on the cultural periphery. The power of the unconventional voice. Think about the early days of any significant intellectual or cultural movement. The foundational ideas rarely spring fully formed from the halls of power. More often, they are whispered, circulated in mimeographed pamphlets, debated in smoky backrooms, or published by small independent presses that dare to defy convention. These are the origins of countercultural thought, and the books born from these environments are often the most potent catalysts for freeing the mind. Consider, for example, the work of Rose Wilder Lane, a pivotal figure in early American libertarianism. Her contributions are often overshadowed by her more famous mother, Laura Ingalls Wilder. Yet Rose Wilder Lane was a force unto herself, and as a journalist, novelist, and key architect of the modern libertarian movement. Her writings, particularly those from the 30s and 40s, articulated a fierce defense of individual liberty, property rights, and limited government, with a clarity and passion that remains markedly irrelevant. Her essays, collected works like The Discovery of the Woven Land, or her fictionalized accounts of early American pioneers, offer a deeply humanistic and pragmatic perspective on freedom. She understood freedom not as an abstract political concept, but as the very essence of the human spirit, embodied in the choices individuals make every day. Another figure whose impact is often underestimated is Isabel Patterson, a literary critic and novelist. Patterson was instrumental in shaping the intellectual underpinnings of libertarian thought in America, particularly through her correspondence in her influential book, The God of the Machine. Published in 1943, this work is remarkably prescient exploration of economic freedom, individual rights, and the dangers of an unchecked state power. Patterson argued that liberty was not a gift from the government, but a natural condition that government was often established to protect, and just as often to infringe upon. Her prose is sharp, and her arguments are incisive. Perspective, rooted in a deep understanding of history and human nature, offers a powerful antidote to collectivist ideologies. Unearthing forgotten gems, these writers and many others like them operated outside the dominant academic and cultural narratives of their time. Their work was often challenging, sometimes controversial, and frequently ignored by the mainstream media and literary establishments. But for those who sought a deeper understanding of individual autonomy and societal organization, their books served as beacons. They offer a different lineage, a counter tradition of thought that emphasizes personal responsibility, the sovereignty of the individual, and the vital importance of free expression. The act of seeking out and reading these forgotten voices is in itself an act of intellectual liberation. It's a conscious decision to look beyond the curated selections and to explore the rich tapestry of ideas that have shaped and continue to shape the ongoing conversation about freedom. It's about recognizing that wisdom isn't always found in the loudest or most popular pronouncements, but often in the quiet, persistent arguments made by those who dare to think differently. As we continue this exploration, it's worth noting how these profound ideas about truth, liberty, and the unvarnished human experience find echoes in contemporary landscapes. By engaging in these unsung heroes, we not only expand our intellectual horizons, but also strengthen our own capacity for independent thought. We arm ourselves with a richer understanding of the long and often arduous struggle for liberty, and we discover the profound satisfaction that comes from unearthing wisdom that truly sets the mind free. Welcome back to Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. We've been exploring the power of books to dismantle the walls of conformity and unlock the mind. But liberation isn't confined to the printed page. It resonates in melodies and lyrics that cut through the noise, and the raw, unvarnished expression of truth. Today, we're talking about my stuff, specifically my album Truth is Power. It's more than just being a singer-songwriter. It's about storytelling. It's about poetry rooted deeply in the American tradition. This my sound, as I often describe it, is a stripped down, unadorned, just my voice, my guitar, and the weight of lived experience. This authenticity is precisely what makes this work a powerful companion to our exploration of books that free the mind. My ethos, my lyrical content, is an unwavering commitment to core principles that echo the very countercultural libertarian ideals we champion here. Truth is Power, my latest record, is a testament to this. Recorded live to tape, it's an album that lays bare the soul of people like me. The title itself is a declaration, a nod to the enduring strength found in uncompromised conviction. My lyrics on this album delve into themes that are central to our discussion: liberty, resilience, and the often unacknowledged spirit of America. I sing to the underdog, the wanderer, the liberty minded soul, and in doing so, I provide a soundtrack for intellectual rebellion. Lyrical threads of freedom. When we talk about books that free the mind, we're often looking for works that challenge authority, that question narratives we're fed, and that encourage a deeper, more critical engagement with the world. My music does this through the potent medium of song, and my melodies might be simple, but my words carry immense weight in this context. Tracks on Truth is Power often explore the tension between individual freedom and encroaching systems, a classic theme in both libertarian thought and countercultural movements. Before we continue our journey into the books that unlock the mind, let's take a moment to consider the tools that help us capture those fleeting sparks of genius. In this quest for intellectual liberation, for authentic expression, the instruments we choose matter. They are extensions of our thoughts, vessels for our ideas, and sometimes even catalysts for deeper contemplation. We're talking about something tangible here, something you can hold. Think of the enduring quality of a Skillcraft U.S. government pen, built with a legacy of American craftsmanship. These aren't just writing implements, they are reliable companions designed for clarity and precision, capable of putting down on paper the thoughts that shape our understandings of the world. They represent a commitment to durability and function, qualities we deeply admire. And what better to pair with such a dependable pen than a notebook that invites reflection? Enter Moleskine notebooks. For generations, these iconic notebooks have been the preferred choice for artists, writers, thinkers, and revolutionaries. Their sturdy bindings, that satisfying texture of their pages, and their minimalist design all conspire to create the perfect environment for your most profound ideas to take root. Whether you're journaling your journey towards greater liberty, outlining a countercultural manifesto, or simply sketching out a new perspective, a moleskin is a testament to the value of putting pen to paper. These aren't products, just products. They are tools for freedom, the freedom to record, to question, to create. They connect you to a lineage of thoughtful individuals who understood the power of the written word. You can find more context and explore these things further. Perhaps even find your own set of these tools by visiting stephenleak.com. It's a place where the spirit of authenticity, rebellion, and liberty truly comes alive, much like the ideas captured within the pages of a good book, or the ink flowing from a quality pen. That's STEVENLEAKE.com. The act of writing, empowering your own narrative. Welcome back to Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. We spend our time exploring the liberating power of books, the ideas they contain, the worlds they open, the perspective they offer. But the journey of intellectual freedom doesn't end with the final page. In fact, in many ways, it's just beginning. Today we're turning our focus inward to the active process of creation, the act of writing, and how it serves as a crucial tool for empowering your own narrative and achieving true mental liberty. Reading is an act of absorption and of receiving and processing external ideas. Writing, however, is an act of distillation, of extraction, and of outward expression. It's where the absorbed becomes understood, where the received becomes owned. For those of us drawn to libertarian ideals, to countercultural thinking, and to an authentic American spirit, the ability to articulate our own thoughts and experiences is paramount. It's how we clarify our own understanding, how we push back against prevailing narratives, and how we forge our own path. From reader to author, owning your ideas. Think about the books that have resonated most deeply with you. Chances are they weren't just passively consumed. They sparked something within you, a question, an agreement, a challenge. The next logical and indeed liberating step is to engage with those sparks. This is where journaling, free writing, and the deliberate act of crafting your own narrative come into play. Keeping a journal isn't merely about recording events, it's about recording your reactions, your interpretations, your evolved understanding. It's a private space where you can wrestle with complex ideas, challenge your own assumptions, and develop the muscle of critical thinking without fear of judgment. When you write down a thought, you give it form. You can examine it, refine it, or even discard it. This process of active engagement solidifies understanding and prevents ideas from remaining mere ethereal notions. It transforms passive consumption into active intellectual ownership. The act of writing is inherently countercultural in a world saturated with prepackaged opinions and easily digestible sound bites. The deliberate, often messy process of articulating one's own perspective is a radical act. It's a commitment to authenticity over conformity, to depth over superficiality. It's about building your own intellectual fortress, brick by painstaking brick, using the raw material of your own mind. Tools for the free-minded. To facilitate this crucial act of writing, the right tools can make a significant difference. They provide the physical means to capture the intangible. We've spoken about the importance of quality and durability in our tools, and this extends directly to your writing instruments. A reliable pen that feels good in your hand, that flows smoothly, can transform the act of writing from a chore into a pleasure. Similarly, a notebook that invites you to fill its pages, to make your mark, is an essential partner in this journey. Building your intellectual arsenal, curating your reading list. Welcome back to Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. We've explored the power of books to dismantle the walls of conformity and unlock the mind, where the journey of intellectual freedom doesn't end with the final page. In fact, in many ways, it's just beginning. Today, we're turning our focus into the practical steps of building your own personal arsenal of mind-freeing texts, how to find them, how to vet them, and how to engage with them critically. It's about transforming passive consumption into active intellectual ownership. In our quest for a liberated mind, the books we choose are our tools, our strategies, and our allies. But where do you find these intellectual weapons? The digital age offers unprecedented abundance of information, but it also presents a challenge. How do you sift through the noise to find the signal? How do you identify books that will truly challenge your assumptions and expand your horizons rather than simply reinforcing the status quo? Strategies for discovery and vetting. Your reading list should be a dynamic entity, constantly evolving as you learn and grow. Consider starting with authors and ideas that have already resonated with you. If a particular theme or philosophical current has captured your attention, perhaps individualism, skepticism of authority, or the importance of individual liberty. Use that as a springboard. Look for bibliographies or suggested reading lists within those books. Often, authors will reference the works that influence them, providing a direct lineage to explore. Don't shy away from exploring the fringes. Countercultural movements often thrive on independent presses, underground zines, and even direct online publications that operate outside the mainstream. Websites dedicated to libertarian thought, historical archives of dissenting opinions, and forums for intellectual discussion can be invaluable resources. Think of it as a treasure hunt, where the most rewarding discoveries are often the ones that require a bit more effort to unearth. I like mises.com. It's like a repository for libertarian books and articles. Also, when you encounter a new author or potentially challenging idea, vetting is crucial. While we champion critical thinking, we also recognize the need for a degree of intellectual honesty. Look beyond the cover blurb or the popular reception. Seek out diverse reviews, not just those that echo your own potential biases. Consider the author's background, their potential motivations, and the historical context in which they are writing. Does the argument hold up under scrutiny? Are there logical fallacies at play? Is the evidence presented compelling and well supported? This process isn't about finding books that confirm what you already believe. It's about finding books that challenge you, that force you to engage with ideas that might be uncomfortable or unfamiliar. It's about the courage to explore these challenging ideas, to wrestle with them, and to emerge with a more nuanced and robust understanding of the world. Engaging critically, the art of active reading. Once you've curated your reading list and selected a text, the real work begins, engaging with it critically. This means reading with a pen in hand, not just to underline passages, but to question, to annotate, and connect ideas. Scribble notes in the margins. Post questions directly to the author. Draw connections to other books you've read, to current events, or to your own life experiences. Consider the importance of diverse perspectives. No single book, no single author holds a monopoly on truth. True intellectual liberation comes from engaging with a wide spectrum of viewpoints, even those that seem diametrically opposed to your own. This doesn't mean abandoning your core principles, but rather strengthening them by understanding the arguments you might disagree with and being able to articulate why you disagree. It's about building a comprehensive understanding, not a one-sided echo chamber. Building your intellectual arsenal is an ongoing active process. It requires curiosity, a willingness to challenge yourself, and the courage to engage with ideas that might always be easy. But in doing so, you equip yourself not just with knowledge, but the power to think independently, to question critically, and to ultimately liberate your own mind. Conclusion: the unending journey of mental liberation. And so we arrive at the close of another exploration on Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. We've delved into the pages of books that don't just entertain but liberate. We've traced the veins of American thought that champion the individual, and we've seen how fiction can forge new pathways in the mind. We've unearthed forgotten voices and celebrated contemporary ones that carry the torch of truth and liberty. The central message, as we've navigated these intellectual landscapes, remains steadfast. Your mind is not a passive recipient of information, but a territory to be actively defended, expanded, and liberated. Books are the most potent tools in this endeavor, acting as keys to unlock understanding, as maps to navigate complexity, and as weapons against ignorance and conformity. Each page turned, each idea grappled with, strengthens your inner resolve and sharpens your critical faculties. Remember the spirit we've channeled through this discussion. The journey of mental liberation is not a destination, but an unending process. It requires constant curiosity, a willingness to challenge, and the courage to think for yourself. Keep seeking, keep questioning, keep reading. Arm yourself with knowledge, hone your critical thinking, and never cease exploring the vast, untamed landscape of your own mind. The most important stories are still waiting to be discovered, and more importantly, the most important narrative is the one you write for yourself. Check out my website, stephenleake.com, STEVENLEAKE. I have my own first draft of my novel about my time in Charleston as a chef called Gethsemane. The first draft of it is available in ebook format at stephenleake.com for free. I just ask that if you read it, you either throw me a comment or something, or donate a buck or two. It's no big deal. Lots of stuff on there like podcasts, radio shows, music, and videos for that promote libertarian ideas and thought and create original work. So until next time, stay vigilant, stay curious, and keep the flame of freedom burning bright. I'm the Cigarette Smoking Man. We're gonna win.